The morning light filtered into the room, but the warmth of the sun couldn't thaw the chill in my heart. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me where she used to sit. Sarah, my wife of 12 years, had left 2 weeks ago. The house felt hollow, every corner echoing with the absence of her laughter, her presence, and most painfully, her love. Our marriage wasn't perfect. What marriage is? But I thought we were solid, that we could weather any storm. We'd built a life together from the ground up, a modest home, a small but thriving business, and countless memories that I thought would bind us forever. Yet here I was, blindsided by her decision to leave me for someone else. Her new partner, Greg, was everything I wasn't. A flashy millionaire with a mansion in the hills, expensive cars, and an aura of charisma that could fill a room. Sarah had always admired ambition, and Greg embodied the kind of wealth and power that dazzled her. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The late nights at work, the sudden interest in designer clothes, the distance that grew between us like a chasm. When she told me she was leaving, it wasn't a conversation. It was a declaration. Her words were sharp, cutting through me like a blade. "I deserve more, Aaron," she said, her eyes cold and resolute. "I can't spend my life struggling anymore." Struggling? It felt like a slap in the face. We had a comfortable life, not extravagant, but filled with love and support, or so I thought. I watched her pack her bags and walk out the door, leaving me alone with nothing but questions and a gnawing sense of inadequacy. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in work to keep the loneliness at bay. Running my small carpentry business had always been a source of pride, but now it became my refuge. Still, her betrayal weighed heavily on me. Friends and family tried to console me, but their words felt hollow. "You're better off without her," they said, but it didn't feel that way. Weeks turned into months, and I slowly began to find my footing. I poured my energy into growing the business, taking on new clients and learning new skills. I even started going to the gym, not to win Sarah back, but to prove to myself that I could still be strong, still be someone worth loving. Meanwhile, Sarah's life with Greg played out like a fairy tale on social media. Photos of lavish vacations, candlelit dinners, and luxury cars flooded her profiles. At first, it hurt to see her so happy, but I told myself it was better this way. She had made her choice, and I had to move on. Then one day, everything changed. I was scrolling through the news when I saw Greg's name in a headline: "Real estate mogul files for bankruptcy amidst fraud allegations." My heart skipped a beat as I read the article. Greg had been accused of shady business practices, and his entire empire was crumbling. The man who had lured Sarah away with promises of wealth and luxury was now facing financial ruin. I didn't hear from Sarah immediately, but I knew it was only a matter of time. Sure enough, a week later, she showed up at my doorstep. Her once pristine appearance was replaced by a disheveled look, her eyes filled with desperation. "Aaron," she began, her voice trembling, "I made a mistake." I stood there unsure of what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Pity? The woman who had broken my heart was now standing in front of me, asking for forgiveness. She explained how Greg's bankruptcy had exposed the cracks in their relationship, how he had turned cold and manipulative once the money was gone. "He never loved me," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Not the way you did." Her words stirred something in me, but it wasn't the hope of reconciliation. It was a sense of closure, of understanding that her betrayal wasn't about me. It was about her own insecurities and desires. I listened to her apology, her pleas for another chance, but I knew deep down that things could never be the same. As she waited for my response, I took a deep breath. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of the pain she had caused, but I chose a different path. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady, "I hope you find the happiness you're looking for, but I can't give you what you need anymore." Her face crumpled and she nodded, perhaps knowing this was the only answer I could give. As she walked away, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. This was the closure I needed, the final chapter of a story that had consumed me for too long. The months that followed were transformative. I continued to grow my business, and I even started dating again. Not because I needed someone to fill the void, but because I was ready to share my life with someone who truly valued me. Looking back, Sarah's betrayal was a painful but necessary turning point. It forced me to reevaluate my life, to rediscover my own strength and worth. I realized that love isn't about wealth or appearances. It's about commitment, trust, and mutual respect. The door closed behind Sarah that day, and for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't joy or satisfaction, but it was the quiet acknowledgement that I had chosen my dignity over my wounds. Life doesn't stop for heartbreak, and neither could I. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of introspection. I revisited the moments in our marriage when cracks began to form, moments I had ignored or misread. It wasn't about blaming myself, but understanding how we had drifted apart. Still, no amount of reflection could fully explain why Sarah made the choices she did. One evening, while working late in my small workshop, I received a call from my best friend Tom. He had been my rock throughout the ordeal, checking in regularly and making sure I didn't drown in my thoughts. "Aaron," he said, "you've been hiding too much. Come out this weekend. There's a local business networking event. You might meet some new clients, or maybe just have a good time." Reluctantly, I agreed. The event was held at a community hall filled with small business owners and entrepreneurs. While I initially felt out of place, the casual conversations and shared experiences began to put me at ease. I even handed out a few business cards, feeling a spark of optimism I hadn't felt in a long time. As the evening wound down, I noticed a woman standing near the exit, looking lost in thought. She seemed familiar, but it wasn't until she approached me that I realized who she was. "Aaron," she asked hesitantly. "It's Claire from high school." I couldn't believe it. Claire had been one of my closest friends back then, though life had taken us in different directions. We exchanged pleasantries, catching up on the years we had missed. She had moved back to town recently to start her own interior design business. As we talked, I was struck by her warmth and genuine interest in my life. Over the next few weeks, Claire and I kept in touch. She even helped redesign my workshop to make it more efficient and inviting. Her creativity and positivity were infectious. And for the first time since Sarah's departure, I found myself laughing freely again. Meanwhile, Sarah continued to make sporadic attempts to reach out. She left voicemails, sent texts, and even showed up at my workshop once. "I just want to talk," she pleaded, but I knew better than to let her back into my life. Each time I politely but firmly reminded her that we were done. As Claire and I grew closer, I couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her and Sarah. Claire valued the simple things in life: honesty, kindness, and hard work. There were no games, no pretenses, just two people enjoying each other's company. But moving on wasn't without its challenges. I still carried scars from my marriage, fears of being hurt again, and doubts about whether I could trust someone fully. One evening, Claire and I sat on a park bench watching the sunset. "Aaron," she said softly, "you've been through a lot, but don't let the past steal your future. You deserve happiness." Her words struck a chord. I realized I had been holding back, afraid to open myself up to new possibilities. It was time to let go of the pain and give myself permission to start anew. One day, while sorting through old files at home, I came across an anniversary card Sarah had given me years ago. Inside, she had written, "No matter what life throws at us, I'll always choose you." The irony stung, but instead of feeling bitterness, I felt gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons I had learned, for the strength I had found within myself, and for the chance to build a better life. Claire and I decided to take things slowly, enjoying the journey without rushing toward any destination. She became not only my partner, but also my confidant, someone who reminded me of my worth and encouraged me to dream bigger. Together, we worked on expanding my carpentry business, incorporating her design expertise to offer custom furniture and interiors. As months turned into a year, I found myself reflecting on how far I had come. Sarah's betrayal had once felt like the end of everything, but now it felt like the beginning of something better. Life had a way of surprising me, teaching me that even the darkest moments could lead to unexpected blessings. One afternoon, while delivering a custom piece to a client, I received a text from Tom. "Guess who's back in town?" "Greg." The name sent a ripple through me, but not the way it once would have. Apparently, Greg had returned to our small town, trying to rebuild his life after his financial downfall. He was hosting a small seminar on overcoming setbacks, and I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. Later that week, I bumped into Sarah at the grocery store. She looked different, tired, perhaps a little older than I remembered. We exchanged polite nods and she hesitated before speaking. "Aaron," she said quietly, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Truly, I hope you're doing well." I smiled, not out of malice, but out of genuine contentment. "I am," I replied simply, and for the first time I realized I meant it. As Sarah walked away, I felt no anger, no resentment, just a sense of closure. She had made her choices, and I had made mine. The difference was that I had chosen growth, love, and integrity. The past was a chapter in my life, but it no longer defined me. My future was brighter than ever, filled with possibilities I never could have imagined. And as I drove back to the workshop that day, I knew that I had finally found my peace. Driving back to my workshop after seeing Sarah at the grocery store, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I'd come. The journey from heartbreak to healing had been long and arduous, but I felt stronger for it. The pain that once consumed me had been replaced by a quiet confidence, a sense that I was finally living for myself rather than someone else's expectations. The workshop was bustling with activity when I arrived. Claire was there, reviewing design plans with one of our clients. Seeing her in her element filled me with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Her creativity and passion had transformed my small carpentry business into something I never imagined, a thriving enterprise that blended craftsmanship with artistry. "Aaron," Claire called out, waving me over, "we've got a big order from the Miller estate. They want custom furniture for their entire living room." I smiled, not just at the prospect of another successful project, but at the thought of sharing this journey with someone as dedicated as Claire. She had been my anchor, my partner, and my biggest supporter. Together, we were building not just a business, but a life that reflected our shared values and dreams. Later that evening, as we closed up the workshop, Claire and I sat outside under the stars, sipping tea and talking about our future. "Have you ever thought about expanding beyond the town?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Your work deserves a bigger audience." Her question caught me off guard. For so long, I had been focused on rebuilding what I had lost that I hadn't dared to dream beyond my immediate surroundings. "I don't know," I admitted. "Do you really think we're ready for that?" Claire placed her hand on mine. "Aaron, you've come so far. You've rebuilt your life from scratch, and you've shown that you're capable of amazing things. Why not take the next step?" Her belief in me was infectious, and over the next few weeks, we began brainstorming ways to expand the business. Claire suggested creating a website to showcase our work, complete with photos, testimonials, and an online store for smaller items. I was hesitant at first. Technology wasn't exactly my forte, but with her guidance, we launched the site, and the response was overwhelming. Orders started pouring in from neighboring towns and even out of state. The success was exhilarating, but it also brought new challenges. Managing a growing business required more time, more resources, and more organization. There were late nights, missed meals, and moments of frustration, but through it all, Claire was by my side, encouraging me and reminding me why we started this journey in the first place. Amid the chaos of our expanding business, I received an unexpected email. It was from Greg. The subject line read, "A humble request." Curious, I opened it. The email was short and to the point. Greg admitted to his mistakes, both in his personal and professional life, and expressed regret for the pain he had caused. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness," he wrote, "but I wanted to let you know that I've learned from my failures. If you're ever open to a conversation, I'd like to apologize in person." I stared at the screen for a long time, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it. After all, what could he possibly say that would change the past? But another part of me recognized the courage it took to reach out. In the end, I replied with a simple message. "I appreciate your email. Let's meet next week." The meeting was awkward at first. We chose a neutral spot, a small cafe in town, where neither of us would feel too comfortable or too exposed. Greg looked different. Gone was the flashy demeanor, replaced by a subdued, almost humbled presence. "Aaron," he began, "thank you for agreeing to meet. I know I don't deserve your time, but I wanted to apologize face to face. He went on to explain how his downfall had forced him to confront his own arrogance and selfishness. Losing everything, his wealth, his status, and even Sarah, had been a wake-up call. "I hurt a lot of people, including you," he admitted, "and for what it's worth, I'm sorry." I listened, not out of obligation, but out of genuine curiosity. Seeing Greg in this state, stripped of his bravado, was oddly humanizing. While his actions had caused me immense pain, I realized that holding on to anger wouldn't serve me. "Greg," I said finally, "I appreciate your apology. We all make mistakes, and it seems like you've learned from yours. I hope you find a way to rebuild your life." As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure, not just with Greg, but with the chapter of my life that he represented. Forgiveness didn't mean condoning his actions. It meant freeing myself from the weight of resentment. Life continued to move forward, and with each passing day, I felt more at peace. The business flourished, thanks in large part to Claire's vision and dedication. Our relationship deepened as well, built on a foundation of mutual respect and trust. One evening, after a particularly successful client meeting, Claire and I sat in the workshop, reminiscing about how far we'd come. "Do you ever think about what life would have been like if things had gone differently?" she asked. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but then I realized that everything that happened brought me here, and I wouldn't trade this for anything." As I looked at her, I felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for her, but for the journey that had led me to this moment. The pain of the past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. The days after my meeting with Greg were unexpectedly calm. It was as if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had finally lifted. Forgiveness, I learned, wasn't just about letting go of anger. It was about reclaiming my peace. Life seemed to breathe easier, and for the first time in years, I felt truly unburdened. Claire and I were on a roll, both in our business and our personal lives. Orders kept coming in, and our new website had opened doors to opportunities I'd never thought possible. One evening, Claire excitedly showed me an email from a prestigious home design magazine. They wanted to feature our work in an upcoming issue, calling it "a perfect blend of artistry and functionality." "You've earned this," Claire said, beaming as she handed me the laptop. "Your craftsmanship deserves to be seen." "No," I said, smiling back at her. "Our work deserves to be seen." The feature in the magazine was a turning point. It brought a flood of attention, not just locally, but nationally. Orders came in from all over, and before long, we were faced with the challenge of scaling up the business. It was a good problem to have, but it came with its own set of pressures. We hired a small team to help manage the workload, carefully selecting individuals who shared our passion for quality and detail. Training them was a learning experience for me. I had always been a hands-on worker, preferring to do everything myself. But as I watched our team grow, I realized that delegation wasn't just necessary, it was empowering. It allowed us to focus on the bigger picture, on expanding our vision. Amid the whirlwind of growth, Claire and I found moments to step back and appreciate what we had built. One such moment came during a quiet dinner at our favorite spot by the lake. The sun was setting, painting the water in hues of orange and gold. "I've been thinking," Claire said, breaking the comfortable silence. "What if we opened a second workshop, maybe in the city? It could be a great way to expand our reach." The idea was daunting, but it was also exciting. "You're always pushing me out of my comfort zone," I teased. "Someone has to," she replied with a laugh. "But seriously, Aaron, you've got something special. The world deserves to see it." Her belief in me was unwavering, and it inspired me to believe in myself. Over the next few weeks, we began scouting locations for a second workshop. It was a big step, one that came with risks, but we were ready to take it together. As life moved forward, there were occasional reminders of the past. I would see Sarah around town from time to time, often looking hurried or preoccupied. Our interactions, when they happened, were cordial but brief. She seemed to have found her own path, though I couldn't say whether she was truly happy. One day I received an unexpected letter in the mail. It was from Sarah. I hesitated before opening it, unsure of what it might contain. Inside was a short note. "Aaron, I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. I just wanted to say thank you for the years we shared and for being strong enough to move on when I couldn't. I hope you found the happiness you deserve. Sarah. The letter was unexpected, but not unwelcome. It felt like the final piece of closure, a quiet acknowledgement of what had been and what would never be again. I folded the note and placed it in a drawer, not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder of how far I had come. Meanwhile, Claire and I continued to grow, both as partners and as individuals. Our second workshop opened to great success, and we began collaborating with architects and designers on larger projects. The work was demanding but fulfilling, and it brought us closer together. One evening, after a long day at the workshop, Claire and I sat on the porch of our home, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. "Do you ever think about what's next?" she asked, her voice soft. "All the time," I admitted, "but for the first time, I'm not afraid of it. Whatever comes, I know we can handle it together." Her smile was all the affirmation I needed. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, built on a foundation of resilience, trust, and love. Months turned into years, and the memories of the past grew fainter, replaced by new experiences and milestones. Claire and I celebrated the success of our business, the growth of our team, and the joy of living a life filled with purpose. One day, as we were reviewing plans for yet another project, Claire looked at me thoughtfully. "You know," she said, "you should share your story. It's inspiring. People need to know that it's possible to come back from heartbreak stronger than ever." The idea intrigued me. I had always been a private person, but the thought of sharing my journey to help others felt meaningful. With Claire's encouragement, I began writing about my experiences, from the pain of betrayal to the triumph of rebuilding my life. The response was overwhelming. Readers from all walks of life reached out, sharing their own stories of resilience and thanking me for giving them hope. It was humbling and fulfilling in a way I hadn't anticipated. Through it all, I realized that the greatest lesson I had learned was not just about surviving adversity, but about embracing the possibilities that come after. Life would always have its challenges, but it also held endless opportunities for growth, connection, and joy. As time unfolded, Claire and I continued to build a life that felt uniquely ours. The second workshop thrived, and we were now working on projects that were beyond anything I could have imagined back in those first days of rebuilding. Collaborations with interior designers, custom home builders, and even local artists became our new norm. Every day brought new challenges, but they were the kind we welcomed, proof of how far we had come. One quiet morning, as we sat sipping coffee on the porch, Claire turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about how different your life might have been if everything hadn't fallen apart back then?" I paused, considering her question. "I do," I admitted, "but honestly, I think everything had to happen exactly as it did. Losing everything forced me to find myself, to see what I was capable of, and without that, I wouldn't have found you, or this life we've built." She smiled, reaching for my hand. "I'm glad you see it that way, because I can't imagine my life without you in it." The simplicity of her words, the depth of her sincerity, hit me in a way I hadn't expected. It reminded me of something I'd learned the hard way. The best things in life often come after the storm, when you fought through the darkness to find the light. As the weeks turned into months, we found ourselves facing an exciting new opportunity. A prominent architecture firm approached us to collaborate on a high-profile project, the design of a boutique hotel in the city. It was unlike anything we had done before, and the scale of the project was intimidating. Claire, ever the optimist, was thrilled. "This is it, Aaron," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This is the kind of project that can put us on the map." I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. Her belief in me had never wavered, even when my own confidence faltered. "Let's do it," I said, feeling a spark of excitement myself. The months that followed were some of the busiest of our lives. The hotel project pushed us to our limits, but it also brought out the best in us. Late nights at the workshop became the norm, as we worked tirelessly to create pieces that would be both functional and beautiful. Throughout it all, Claire and I grew even closer. Our partnership, both personal and professional, was the foundation of everything we achieved. And as the hotel project neared completion, we allowed ourselves a moment of reflection. "I can't believe we did it," Claire said one evening as we stood in the nearly finished lobby of the hotel. The space was breathtaking, filled with handcrafted furniture and decor that reflected our shared vision. We didn't just do it, I replied. We thrived. The grand opening of the hotel was a celebration of all that we had accomplished. Standing in the beautifully designed space, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and clients, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The journey to this point had been anything but easy, but it had been worth every step. Amid the celebration, I spotted someone I hadn't expected to see. Sarah. She stood quietly at the edge of the room, watching with an expression I couldn't quite read. When our eyes met, she gave a small smile and a nod, as if to say, "Well done." I walked over to her, unsure of what to expect. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady, "it's good to see you." "You too, Aaron," she replied, her tone sincere. "This place is incredible. You've done something truly amazing." "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched by her words. There was a brief silence before she added, "I just wanted to say, I'm happy for you. You've built a life that anyone would be proud of." Her words carried a finality that felt right. Whatever lingering threads had tied us together were now untangled, leaving only mutual respect and a shared understanding of the past. As the evening went on, I found myself reflecting on how far I had come, not just in terms of achievements, but in terms of personal growth. The pain of betrayal, the struggles of starting over, the challenges of building a new life, all of it had shaped me into the person I was today. And for the first time, I felt truly at peace with my journey. Claire and I ended the evening on the hotel's rooftop, overlooking the city lights. "We did it," she said softly, leaning against me. "No," I corrected her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "We're doing it, and I can't wait to see what's next." As we stood there, I realized that this wasn't just the end of one chapter. It was the beginning of something even greater. Life would continue to bring challenges and surprises, but with Claire by my side, I knew we could face anything. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, but it's also full of opportunities to grow, heal, and create something beautiful. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more inspiring stories about resilience, love, and new beginnings. Your support means the world to me. Thank you for listening.